Mary, you said before the summit, I don't collect data, I sue white supremacist groups, hate groups. What did you mean by that?
So my organization does constitutional impact litigation. We are a small, nonpartisan law firm essentially within Georgetown Law. So we have 10 full-time lawyers, most of us formerly Department of Justice attorneys, but we also work with students, and we bring constitutional impact litigation across a wide variety of issue areas. One of those issue areas, which arose frankly out of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, is using state anti-militia tools to sue for injunctive relief. That means court orders to prohibit certain activity by white supremacist organizations and militia organizations who join together and project force, usually while armed, against other people, project authority against other people, even though they have none, oftentimes usurp law enforcement functions. So we've used those tools in Virginia against 23 different white supremacist organizations and militias to obtain court-ordered injunctions against them coming back to Charlottesville as paramilitary organizations, engaging in force or the projection of the use of force against others.
So those injunctions do what exactly?
So the wording is they prohibit these organizations, their leaders and their successor organizations from returning to Charlottesville as part of groups of 2 or more people acting in concert while armed with a firearm or any item whose purpose is for use as a weapon during any demonstration, rally, protest, or march. We're currently partnered up with the elected district attorney in Bernalillo County, New Mexico, bringing an enforcement action against a militia there who came out and deployed during a racial justice protest, heavily armed, usurping law enforcement functions, just like the heavily armed militias did in Charlottesville. And you know, in New Mexico, that resulted in a shooting.
You and I were talking before the cameras rolled about this wave toward civil litigation. We used to think that the answer to dealing with hate-fueled extremism lied in the criminal realm. Seems now the civil realm is moving up ahead. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think it's, you know, I was a prosecutor for many years, a federal prosecutor, and so criminal tools are important. But by the time you're using the criminal tools, you are often sort of a little bit too late. And you also are looking backwards. You are exacting a penalty. You're forcing accountability for something that's already been done. Now, it can also apply to conspiracies for something that hasn't yet been done, but that is planned. But even still, it's a limited tool. Civil litigation can be more effective in trying to actually dismantle organizations, trying to actually prohibit into the future the type of activity that we're worried about. And that's the kind
in
of—
effect, have a long range
A long
impact.
range, yes. And it can bind not just like an individual who committed a particular act in the past, but it can actually apply to an organization and successor organizations. So you can't just go out tomorrow and change your name to something else and continue to engage in the activity you're engaging in.
Can these civil actions run on a parallel track with the criminal actions?
They can. Sometimes if they grow out of the same events, there are things that prosecutors will want to sort of protect. For example, witness testimony. They will oftentimes be concerned about civil litigators relying on the same witnesses and creating a record of statements of witnesses that then could, you know, be used to try to impeach witnesses in a criminal case. So you want to be able to coordinate with the criminal prosecutors if you're bringing civil litigation. And if you don't, as a litigator coordinated, the prosecutors may well go to court and ask for that civil case to be put on ice for a while the criminal case proceeds. But many of what we're seeing now, and it's not just our cases that we've done seeking injunctive relief, it's also other cases that are actually seeking monetary damages, because that can frankly just bankrupt some of these organizations. So that can also be an effective tool. So some of these tactics don't necessarily conflict at all with criminal prosecution, but are complementary.
When you talk to other folks who are both participating in and attending this summit, what kind of response do you get when you're talking about this civil realm?
Well, first of all, this is my second year at the summit, and some of this was aired at the first summit where we talked about, in fact, we talked about two cases coming out of Charlottesville. We talked about our case using anti-militia laws in state court to get court-ordered injunctions, and then we also talked about Sines v. Kessler. That was a civil case looking backwards, seeking damages, money damages for injury actually inflicted on all of the various individuals who were seriously injured, and of course Heather Heyer was killed during that event. So we talked about use of these tools, and I think people were surprised to learn that civil tools did exist. The Sines v. Kessler case relied on the KKK Act as well as state civil conspiracy laws. Our case, as I've mentioned, relied on anti-militia laws that exist in all 50 states. There is no state in the country where it's perfectly fine to form your own private militia and go out and either usurp law enforcement authority or be offensive against the government.
So the tools are there, you're just using them.
Yeah, and it takes a little creativity. It's a little bit novel, and many of the tools haven't been used a lot and haven't been used in this manner, but we're having success in the realm of injunctions using these state tools and in the realm of using the KKK Act.
Final question. You were at last year's summit, you're at this year's. What do you think about it, the whole approach to the summit? Give me your overall impressions.
Well, I think it's amazing to bring together this many experts, this many people working together against hate, and also recognizing that it's more than just hate, right? It's hate, political violence, anti-democracy efforts, and it's not just in the US, it's in the country. And I think, you can go to a lot of conferences, you can hear a lot of people talk, but what makes this now different, assuming it can all really be pulled off, is that there are deliverables. There are do-outs, that are required of each of the working groups, and the working groups don't just show up here at the summit. They actually meet over the ensuing years in between summits and work to actually produce things that will be part of the solution.
Great. Mary McCord, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for allowing me to.